Be silent, and let your silence teach them what your words never could. They're laughing now, aren't they? Thinking you're broken, defeated, forgotten. They look around, don't hear a word from you, and assume you've vanished. That's cute. They think silence is weakness. They think your quiet means surrender. But what they don't know, what they'll never see coming, is what happens when that silence finally hits back. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing in front of a dam. Not a crack, not a sound, just still water. Calm, peaceful, but what no one sees is the pressure behind it. Pushing, building, waiting. That dam, that's you. And the silence. It's not weakness. It's the wall holding back a flood they never prepared for. They're laughing at the surface. They don't realize what's underneath. You cared for them, gave your time, your heart, your loyalty. And when things got real, they chose mockery. They chose ego. They chose to walk away thinking they won. But here's the truth. People only laugh when they think the game is over. The real twist, the game hasn't even started. They think you're sitting in the shadows hoping for a text, waiting to be remembered. But let's break that lie right now. You're not waiting. You're working. You're growing. You're getting quieter because you're becoming more powerful. See, silence isn't passive. It's not some dead space between words. It's a battlefield where warriors like you rise in the dark. You've probably heard them say, they'll be back. Or worse, they're just doing this for attention. My friends, your silence isn't for them. It's for you. It's your reset, your power, your way of stepping out of their noise and into your own peace. And that's the part they'll never understand. Because when people depend on controlling your emotions, your silence is terrifying. And yes, it's hard. Of course it is. Staying quiet when your heart wants to scream is not easy. But neither is outgrowing the people who hurt you. Neither is watching them laugh while you sit with your pain. But here's what separates you. You're not reacting. You're reflecting. You're not retreating. You're rebuilding. That's what Stoicism teaches us. That strength doesn't always show up loud. Sometimes it shows up in silence so deep it echoes in the soul of the one who tried to break you. So let them laugh now. Let them believe they've figured you out, because what they don't realize is that your silence is not the ending. It's the build-up. It's the silence before the comeback, before the rise, before the storm. And when it hits, it won't just surprise them, it'll silence them. Say it with me right now. My silence hits back. Drop it in the comments below. Declare it. Own it. And let the world see you're not done. You're just getting started. Like and subscribe, because what's coming next is going to wake people up. Stay with me. Number 1. They think it's over, but it's only just begun. You were never buried. You were planted. They think the story is over. They think your silence is the final sentence, the closing line to a chapter they believe they've written. In their mind, your silence means you've given up, moved on, broken, defeated, a ghost of who you used to be. They smirk behind their fake smiles. They tell themselves, see, I knew they'd go quiet. I knew they couldn't handle it. But what they don't realize is that your silence is not the end. It's the pause before the greatest rise of your life. Imagine a slingshot. To the casual eye, it looks like it's being pulled back, held down. There's tension, there's silence, there's stillness. But in reality, that pullback is power gathering. It's energy being aimed with precision. The moment it's released, it becomes unstoppable. That's you. They see your retreat and think it's a step back. But what they don't realize is, you're about to launch. Now let's get real. In your silence, fears creep in. You ask yourself, do they even care that I'm gone? What if I really am invisible to them? Was I always this easy to forget? That inner voice whispers lies, shaped by rejection and sculpted by the people who once promised to care. But hear this, you were never the problem. The only mistake you made was giving everything to someone who didn't deserve it. And now you're in the silence, alone, healing, growing. But let me be very clear, you are not lost. You're being refined. See, they've confused your stillness with surrender. They expect the same old reactions, messages begging for closure, late-night confessions, emotional explosions. But now there's nothing. You're silent, and that silence is deafening to someone who thrived on controlling your reactions. They were addicted to your pain. They needed to know they mattered enough to ruin you. And now they don't know where you are, what you're thinking, how you feel. That's power. Not the kind that screams, it's the kind that chills the spine. But here's the hard part. Silence feels like standing still in the dark. No applause, no validation, just you and your thoughts. And that's where most people break. They run back, just to feel seen, just to remind the other person, hey, I still exist, but not you, not this time. You're not going back. You're not explaining yourself. You're not shrinking again for someone who couldn't even see your worth the first time. You are learning the hardest, most liberating truth of them all. Sometimes your silence isn't for them, it's for you. Remember this, rising doesn't always feel like rising. Sometimes it feels like falling apart, like crying in silence, like rebuilding your identity from the ashes of who you used to be when you were trying to be enough for them. But each tear, each quiet moment, each breath you take without their validation is part of your rebirth. You're not who you were. And that's a beautiful, terrifying thing for them. Because here's the twist they never expected. They thought the game ended when you walked away. They believed your silence meant they had won. But they don't understand this simple truth. You haven't vanished. You've evolved. People like them. They don't see quiet as power. They see it as weakness because they fear it. Because in their world, noise equals control. But in the world of a Stoic, silence is sacred. It's discipline, it's control turned inward, and that's what's happening now. You're mastering the most dangerous form of strength, stillness with purpose. They can't read your silence, they can't predict it, they can't spin it to their friends. It's driving them insane. They'll pretend to be unaffected, they'll post the stories, they'll laugh louder, party harder, but deep down they're checking your status. They're wondering why you're not reacting, why you're not breaking. And eventually, they'll ask the question that haunts every manipulator. Did I just lose someone I'll never find again? That's when the silence hits back. So, my friends, don't flinch. Don't fold. Don't send that message just to get a reaction. They already made the mistake. They underestimated you. And that's something they'll never recover from. Not because you proved them wrong, but because you stopped needing to. Number 2, laughter echoes loudest before the fall. Those who laugh at your silence often fear what it's building. They laugh now, loud, confident, mocking. They sit with their friends, scroll through their screens, toss your name around like you were just a moment, a phase they passed through, something to joke about. They laugh at how quiet you've become. Oh, they finally disappeared, knew they would. Their smirks, their sarcasm, their shallow ego, all built on the illusion that your silence means you're gone, that they've won, that your stillness is their triumph. But what they don't realize, what they can't realize, is that laughter has always been the mask of fear. And silence has always been the warning. Picture a grand, ancient hall, beautiful on the outside, marble floors, gold walls, chandeliers swaying from the ceiling. And in the center, someone laughs, loud, sharp, echoing off the walls, but the room is empty. That laugh doesn't feel powerful. It feels hollow, unsettling, fake. That's them. They're not laughing because they've won. They're laughing because they're nervous, because something inside them feels the shift. Your silence is beginning to echo, and it's bouncing back truths they've been trying to avoid. See, people who hurt others rarely know how to sit with themselves. They need distractions, noise, power over someone. The moment you stop giving them access to your emotions, your reactions, your energy, they panic, but they won't show it. Instead, they laugh. That's how they deal with discomfort, through denial disguised as mockery. But deep down, your silence is speaking to a part of them they can't ignore forever. It's whispering truths. It's poking holes in their ego. It's revealing their own emptiness. And here's the part most don't understand. The silence you gave them wasn't immediate. It came after pain, after patience, after trying, after explaining yourself more times than you should have, after forgiving things no one should have had to forgive. You went quiet because you realized the volume of your love wasn't being heard anyway, so you turned it off, not as a tactic, not as a trick, but as a survival instinct, as self-respect finally rising from exhaustion. Still, they laugh, because to them, silence equals weakness. Why? Because that's what they fear in themselves. They don't know how to be still. They don't know how to sit with the echoes of their own choices. So they fill the room with sound, with performance, with lies they've told themselves for so long they've started to believe them. But nothing echoes louder than a soul that knows it messed up and now sits in the aftermath of silence they caused. They'll never admit it, but your silence bothers them. It's too steady, too calm, too composed, and that threatens everything they thought they controlled. They expected an argument. They expected one last emotional plea, one more message they could ignore. They expected noise, but when you gave them none of that, when you didn't break, when you didn't flinch, when you didn't show up begging for closure, that's when the laughter got louder, because they had to cover up the discomfort. You see, their entire sense of self is built on reaction. If they can provoke you, they feel alive. If they can make you mad, they feel powerful. If they can make you jealous, they feel desired. But if you give them nothing, they begin to disappear into their own illusions. They begin to realize that without your energy, their games don't work. Without your presence, they lose their stage. They stop being significant. That's the real punchline, and the joke's on them. And still, they laugh. But listen closely. It's not the laughter of joy. It's the nervous laugh of someone who knows deep down they messed with someone they should have cherished. It's the forced laugh of someone who thinks if they keep pretending, they'll outrun the regret. But they won't. Because regret is patient. It waits. And your silence? It's the doorway it enters through. So let them keep laughing. Let them post. Let them talk. Let them pretend. Their pride is loud now, but pride always falls the hardest. It's written in every story, every philosophy, every truth that's ever endured time. The laughter of the arrogant is always loudest, right before the collapse. And when the silence they once mocked begins to shape your glow-up, your peace, your power, their smirks will fade, slowly, painfully, quietly. And you won't even have to say a word. Say it with me. Their laughter means nothing to my growth. Drop it in the comments. Declare it. Show yourself. Not to prove a point, but to live your truth out loud. Because while they laugh to feel better, you rise to be better. And my friend, the rise is only just beginning. Stay close. What's coming next will turn their laughter into silence. Number 3. Your silence isn't quiet. It's a warning. When someone goes silent, don't assume they've disappeared. Sometimes silence is a whisper from the storm they've become. They think your silence is nothing, an empty space, a blank page, a quiet retreat. But oh, your silence isn't quiet. It's a warning. It's the calm before the collapse of everything they thought they controlled. It's not the absence of sound. It's the build-up of power, the kind of power they don't recognize until it's too late. Because people like that, they don't hear silence. Not at first. They only hear what makes noise, attention, chaos, begging. That's what they respond to. But silence? Silence unnerves them. Because silence tells the truth. You see, when someone is used to manipulating emotions, they're fluent in drama. They know how to twist words, how to provoke reactions, how to make you feel crazy for wanting clarity. But silence, that's a language they don't understand. And that's exactly why it terrifies them. Your silence strips them of the performance. It leaves them alone on a stage with no audience, no applause, just the echo of their own intentions. And that, my friends, is louder than any scream you could have sent their way. Picture a battlefield at dawn. The night was filled with noise, shouting, explosions, fear. But when the sun rises and all you hear is the wind and your own breath, that's when the weight of what just happened settles in. That silence isn't peace. It's what comes before the reckoning. That's you, right now. You're the silence that comes before everything changes. And they can feel it, even if they don't admit it. But here's where it gets real. You're probably asking yourself, if my silence is so powerful, why don't they come back? Why don't they break first? And that's the part that hurts, right? Because we're human. We want to be missed. We want them to notice. We want the silence to speak so loudly that they come running back just to escape the echo. But let me break a lie right now. Your silence is not a fishing hook. It's not bait. It's not a strategy. It's a boundary. A line drawn in energy, not words. Stoicism teaches us that power is not about how loud we speak. It's about how little we let the outside world control our inner world. Your silence doesn't need to make them do anything. Its purpose is to bring you back to yourself, to shift the power dynamic from "I hope they care" to "I choose peace no matter what they do." That's where real strength lives, not in control over others, but in mastery over yourself. Let them think you're just being petty. Let them think you're sulking or waiting. That's what small minds do. They assign small reasons to big awakenings. They look at your silence and assume you're playing games. But what they fail to see is that silence was the moment you left the game entirely. While they're sitting there, still trying to figure out your next move, you've already moved on. You've walked off the board. You're not a player anymore. You're the one writing a new set of rules. And yes, they may laugh now. They may boast, mock, shrug. But that laugh is already fading. You may not hear it yet, but give it time. The quiet they thought was harmless will become deafening. Because you were the noise that gave their life a rhythm. You were the presence that gave their chaos contrast. And now, without you, the emptiness they used to run from has come home. They used to use your reactions as proof that they mattered, that they still had control. But your silence, it's proof they lost it, and they know it. Even if they don't say it out loud, they feel it. And it hits deeper than any confrontation ever could. That's why they avoid the truth. That's why they keep pretending. But the silence doesn't lie. The silence doesn't bend. It just stares back at them, unblinking. So don't be fooled by their lack of response. Don't think your silence has failed just because they haven't come knocking. Some storms move slow, but when they arrive, they rearrange everything. Your silence is doing the same. It's moving through them, in quiet, invisible ways, pressing against their ego, cracking their illusions, one moment at a time. Say it with me. My silence is not empty. It's everything. Drop it in the comments. Not for them, to reclaim it for you. Let the world see that you're no longer looking for noise to prove your worth. You're living in a different frequency now, higher, quieter, sharper. Let them underestimate you. Let them laugh at your quiet. Because when the silence finally hits back, it won't just make noise, it'll leave a mark. Stay tuned, because next, we're diving into how your stillness becomes the very mirror they fear most. Number 4, they mistook your stillness for surrender. Still waters run deep, but the ones who never learned to swim, they mock the quiet until it pulls them under. They looked at you and thought you gave up, that you walked away defeated, that your silence was you waving a white flag, hands off, heart broken, spirit crushed. In their mind, you retreated because you couldn't take the heat, because they think quiet equals quitting. But the truth is, they never understood your kind of strength. They never realized that stillness isn't surrender. It's preparation. It's power being recentered. It's the part of the story where the real transformation begins. Picture a lion in tall grass, not moving, not flinching, just watching, waiting, quiet, calm, controlled. The prey looks around and thinks the danger has passed. They breathe easy. They get cocky. But what they don't see is the gaze locked in, the claws flexed under still skin. The strike doesn't happen in the noise. The strike is born in the stillness. And when it comes, it's too late. That's you. They thought you were finished, but you were just preparing, gathering, rooting. You weren't vanishing, you were getting dangerously aligned. Stillness is one of the most misunderstood forms of power, because it looks like nothing is happening. There's no drama, no confrontation, no long texts at 2 a.m. explaining how they made you feel, no chasing, no noise. And for people who thrive off attention and chaos, that's confusing. It makes them nervous. So they tell themselves lies to protect their ego. They say you were weak, you couldn't handle the pressure, you gave up. But deep down, they know something's not adding up. Something about your stillness feels different. Because when someone used to your reactions suddenly gives them nothing, their entire strategy collapses. They're left standing in front of a mirror without your energy to distort their reflection. And what they see? It's not pretty. That's the power of stillness. It forces them to sit with themselves. And most people can't handle that. You were never the one playing games. You were real. You showed up. You tried. You stayed longer than you should have, hoping they'd meet you halfway. But they took your consistency for granted, your patience as permission, your loyalty as weakness. And when you finally chose stillness, when you finally stopped explaining yourself, they couldn't recognize the version of you that didn't beg. It's because they only know how to recognize power when it's loud. But Stoic power, it's quiet. Stoic strength doesn't scream, it simply endures. It doesn't demand attention. It shifts the entire room just by existing. That's what you're doing now, shifting silently. Let me say something hard, but real. People who mistreat you expect you to stay loud. They expect noise because that's how they measure importance. If you're yelling, crying, reacting, they still feel relevant. But when you stop, when you go still, they're forced to face the possibility that maybe, just maybe, they didn't matter as much as they thought. Or worse, that you finally realized they were never the prize to begin with. And I get it. You wanted to send that last message. You wanted to say, I loved you. I fought for you. I gave you more than you ever deserved. But you didn't, because you're learning something greater. You're learning that your energy is sacred, that not everyone deserves access to your truth. And sometimes the most powerful move you can make is no move at all. Stillness takes discipline. It takes self-control. It's waking up every day knowing you could speak, but choosing not to. Not out of fear, but out of respect for yourself. Because you're not here to prove your worth. You're not here to chase someone who made a joke out of your love. You're here to rise, and that doesn't require their permission. It only requires your decision. So let them misread your silence. Let them twist it in their mind to protect their fragile sense of self. Let them believe you surrendered. Because while they're creating stories in their head, you're creating a new life in reality. One where peace isn't something you beg for, it's something you become. Say it with me. My stillness is not surrender. Drop it in the comments. Declare it. Let the world know that your silence is not a weakness. It's a warning, a reset, a return to the strongest version of you. The one who doesn't need to argue. The one who doesn't need to explain. The one who walks away, not to give up, but to level up. And stay close, because next, we'll go even deeper. We're stepping into the moment where your silence turns into the mirror they've been running from all along. Number 5. When silence becomes the mirror they fear. You don't always have to confront them. Sometimes your absence becomes the only truth they can't run from. At first your silence made them laugh. Then it made them curious. But slowly, almost invisibly, it started doing something much deeper, something they didn't expect. Your silence became a mirror. And when someone has spent their whole life running from their reflection, a mirror isn't just uncomfortable, it's terrifying. You stopped chasing, you stopped explaining, you didn't play the game, you didn't argue, you didn't scream, you simply went still. And in that stillness, something started to happen, not to you, but to them. Without your voice to argue with, without your attention to feed on, they were left alone, with themselves. And that's the one place they never wanted to be. You see, some people only feel alive when they have someone else to destroy, someone to provoke, someone to dance with in the toxic cycle. And when you stepped out of that loop, when you turned off the music and walked away, they were left in silence. Not just yours, but their own. And that silence, that's when the truth starts to echo. Imagine standing in a room of mirrors. Every direction you look, there you are. No distractions, no validation, no applause, just raw, unfiltered truth staring back. That's what your silence becomes when someone has built their identity on manipulation. It shows them everything they tried to hide, every lie they told, every wound they never healed, every mask they wore to impress people who never really looked. That's why they avoid still people, because stillness is clarity. And clarity is accountability. And for someone who spent their entire life avoiding both, your silence isn't peaceful, it's threatening. They might post pictures pretending they've moved on. They might talk loudly in rooms full of people, making it seem like they're unaffected. But the loudest ones are often the loneliest. And when the crowd goes home, and their phone stops buzzing, and the lights turn off, your silence creeps in, not as noise, but as realization. That's the part they can't escape. They expected you to make the silence about them, to wait, to hope, to wish for their return. But what they never expected was for the silence to turn inward, for it to show them who they are without you. And what they're discovering is something they tried to avoid all along. They're not the person they pretended to be. Because while you were building, they were busy bluffing. While you were healing, they were hiding. And now the mirror won't go away. It's everywhere. In the relationships they can't maintain. In the emptiness they feel around people who don't really know them. In the nights they stay up scrolling, hoping to feel something, anything, that reminds them of the control they once had over you. But control only works when you give it. And your silence is the evidence that they've lost it. They say silence is golden, but not when it's reflecting back your deepest insecurities, not when it's forcing you to sit in the wreckage of your own behavior. That's what's happening now. You're not punishing them. You're not being cold. You've simply stepped back. And that space is showing them a version of themselves they never wanted to meet. And don't think they're not noticing. They do. But pride is louder than truth at first. That's why they'll pretend. They'll pretend the mirror isn't real. They'll throw rocks at it, blame you, gaslight you, call you dramatic, cold, distant. But none of that works anymore, because the mirror isn't in your hands, it's in theirs. It's in the silence you left behind. Still, this part isn't easy. Watching them spiral in your absence, watching them twist the story to protect their ego, watching them act like you didn't matter just to feel less small. But let me remind you, this is not your weight to carry. Their reflection is not your responsibility. You've done your part. You've spoken your truth through your silence. Now it's on them to decide whether to face it or keep running from it. And when the time comes, when they finally pause long enough to really look, they'll feel it. That sting, that ache, that knowing, not just that they lost someone who loved them, but that they lost the version of themselves that only existed when they had you in their life. They'll realize that your silence didn't just reveal them, it exposed what they never became. Say it with me now. My silence is their mirror. Drop it in the comments, not to flex, not to provoke, but to declare, to own this new phase of your life. Because you've stopped being a character in their story. You've become a mirror in their silence, a reflection they can't rewrite. And no matter how hard they try, some truths can't be ignored forever. Stay close, because next we go deeper into the part they never saw coming, how, while they were looking away, you were evolving into someone they'll never be able to reach again. Number 6. They never thought you'd grow in the dark. They tried to bury you, but they didn't know you were a seed. They thought it was over when you went quiet. They thought you were done, finished, gone. In their mind, silence meant decay. Stillness meant collapse. They imagined you curled up somewhere, heartbroken, obsessing, waiting for a text that would never come. That's the picture they painted. That's the narrative they laughed about. But they never stopped to consider this. What if your silence wasn't the end? What if it was the incubation of something they couldn't even imagine? They forgot that things grow in the dark, that life begins in silence. A child is formed in the quiet of the womb. A tree pushes through soil long before it breaks the surface. Stars are born in the blackness of space. And you? You've been growing in a place they can't see, healing in a way they'll never understand. Not because you wanted to prove something, but because you finally realized you were worth evolving for. You didn't post about it. You didn't scream about it. You didn't perform your healing to get their attention. That's what confused them. See, they're used to people proving their worth through noise, desperation, chasing. But when you chose solitude, when you chose discipline over display, that's when their assumptions began to crack. They thought you were broken, but what was really happening is you were breaking open into something more, into someone stronger. You used the silence to clean your wounds, to reflect, to rebuild, and you didn't just grow, you transformed, slowly, quietly, relentlessly. The reason they didn't see it coming is simple. They never believed you had that kind of power. To them, you were only valuable as long as you were attached to them, as long as you were reacting, needing, hoping. But the moment you cut off the noise and redirected your energy inward, their version of you stopped existing. The version they could mock, the one they could control, the one they underestimated. They looked at the surface and thought, they're silent, they've disappeared. But beneath that silence, something was rising, like lava under rock, like lightning building before the strike. And now that strength is starting to show in the way you speak, in the way you move, in the boundaries you set, in the glow that's no longer tied to anyone's approval. Because while they were chasing distractions, you were chasing purpose. While they were finding temporary comfort in shallow connections, you were facing your demons, holding yourself accountable, forgiving yourself for staying too long, and letting go of the parts of you that were built for someone else's validation. Growth in the dark is the hardest kind, because it's lonely, it's invisible, no applause, no spotlight, just you and your pain, and your choice to turn it into something useful. There were nights where it felt like you were crumbling, moments where you almost reached back out. But you didn't, because a deeper part of you knew that reaching back would only pull you down again. And here's the twist. They still think they know you. They still believe they could predict your next move. But what they don't realize is that the version of you they knew, that person doesn't exist anymore. That person died in the silence. And in their place stands someone they'll never be able to recognize, much less control. So now, as they scroll through their feed, as they hear your name through whispers, as they feel the chill of your absence, they won't admit it out loud, but they'll feel it in their gut. That something has shifted, that you've outgrown everything they once used to keep you small, and nothing scares them more than realizing they had you at your weakest, and you still walked away. You didn't grow to spite them. You grew to save yourself. You chose healing over resentment, peace over performance, purpose over pain. And that choice, that's what separates you from the crowd. That's what makes you unforgettable. Say it with me. I grew in the dark. Drop it in the comments. Let it be your reminder, your declaration, because while they thought silence meant defeat, it was really your soil, your cocoon, your foundation. And now that you're breaking through the surface, they'll have no choice but to watch you bloom. Stay close, my friends, because what's coming next isn't just your return. It's your arrival, the rebirth, the rise, the version of you they'll never get access to again. Number 7, they'll come back, but not to apologize. Don't confuse their return with remorse. Sometimes they come back just to see if you're still weak. Unknown. Here's the part they never prepare for. Your silence starts to hit. Not as an echo, but as a realization. A chill in the room where your warmth used to be. A hollowness in conversations that used to feel full. And slowly, quietly, they feel it. The absence, the gap. The undeniable truth that you're no longer there. That's when the itch starts. The curiosity, the creeping regret. That's when they come back. But let's break the fantasy right now. They're not coming back to apologize. This isn't a movie. There's no violin music, no poetic confession in the rain. People who made sport of your emotions don't return because they've evolved. They return to see if they still have access. To test the door, to knock not because they're sorry, but because they're curious. Curious if you're still bleeding. Curious if their name still makes your heart skip. Curious if the silence they once laughed at still means you're hurting. It's a test, and they come dressed in old familiarity, a hey, a meme, a memory, nothing deep, nothing real, just enough to spark the old flame, to see if there's still warmth left in the ashes, because they don't miss you. They miss the control, the comfort, the attention, the version of you that gave more than you received, the version that waited, that hoped, that broke your own boundaries just to make them feel better about their own brokenness. But here's the thing, that version of you doesn't exist anymore. Not because you became bitter, not because you're trying to win, but because you finally saw the cost of staying soft for someone who was never gentle with you. You finally chose yourself, and your silence wasn't just distance, it was rebirth. So yes, they'll come back. But not because they realized your worth, not because they've changed, Most of the time they return out of habit, boredom, or ego, because they've realized that other people don't give them the kind of access you did, that their games don't work on everyone, that not everyone has the same capacity for forgiveness, love, or depth, so they trace their steps back to the last place they felt powerful, you. But my friend, this is the moment you need to stay grounded. This is the test you have to pass, because they're counting on you being the same. They're counting on your silence to have been a tactic, not a transformation. They assume they'll find the same door unlocked, but they don't realize you've changed the locks, rebuilt the house, and don't even live there anymore. It will be tempting. That message will make your chest tighten. That call will stir old feelings, and part of you might want to believe they came back with good intentions. But remember this: intentions don't mean a thing without change, and silence has a way of exposing whether they've done the work, or if they're just hoping you still haven't. People don't just miss you when you're gone. They miss what you did for them, how you made them feel, how you softened their chaos. And that's not always love. Sometimes it's just convenience. And you are no longer convenient. You are no longer accessible. You are no longer the same soul that begged to be chosen. Let them feel the door close. Let them stand outside the house of your peace and remember the chaos they brought to it. Let them knock and get no answer, not to punish them, but to protect you, because silence isn't revenge. It's wisdom. It's choosing not to reopen a wound you've already spent months healing from. Say it with me: I do not answer old doors. Drop it in the comments. Declare it, not with pride, but with peace. Because you've outgrown apologies that come without accountability. You've outgrown people who only show up when their world gets quiet. And most of all, you've outgrown the version of yourself that kept waiting for someone else to wake up. Stay with me. Because next, we're stepping into the moment that flips the entire story, how your silence becomes the rise they never saw coming. Number 8, the rise they never expected. The best revenge is none at all. Just move on and be better. Unknown. They thought the silence would end with your return, that one day you'd come back with teary eyes and shaky hands, looking for closure, for answers, for them. But what they never expected, what their ego couldn't calculate, was that your silence wasn't a pause. It was a pivot, a turning point, the start of a rise so silent, so steady, so real. They never saw it coming. They looked back, expecting the same version of you, the one who tolerated the bare minimum, forgave too quickly, gave too much. But that person, you buried them in the silence, you grieved them, and in their place, you built someone untouchable, someone rooted, someone who doesn't need noise to be noticed. You didn't rise out of spite. You rose because the ground you stood on, the one they chipped away at, could no longer hold you. So you built higher, inside yourself, quietly, unapologetically. While they chased validation, you chased peace. While they played games, you built goals. And while they thought you were lost, you were just becoming unreachable. This rise, it doesn't announce itself with anger. It doesn't scream for attention. It simply is, in your presence, in your energy, in the way your silence no longer waits, but moves forward. It's in the glow they can't dim, the peace they can't interrupt, and the strength they'll never get to stand beside again. You are not who they remember, and that's the part they'll never recover from. Say it with me one final time. I am the rise they never expected. Drop it in the comments. Own it. Stand tall in it. Because this is the moment, the shift, the beginning of the life they'll never get access to again. And if this message hit home, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let it echo. Let it reach someone who's still quiet in their pain, still rising in the dark. Subscribe, hit that like button, and keep walking forward with me. Because you're not just healing, you're building a story of power, and we've only just begun.